So J.J. Abrams' mission, which he chose to accept, was to take the Mission Impossible franchise in a brand new, fresh direction. So let's see how successful he was. Let's take a look at Mission Impossible 3. Ethan Hunt, now a trainer of new recruits to the Impossible Missions Force, has settled down with his lovely fiancée Julia, but is soon lured back into action by Jonathan Musgrave on a mission to rescue Ethan's prized protege of Lindsay Ferris. Teamed with his friend Luther Stickle along with agents Declan and Zen, they launched their daring mission into Berlin. However, despite freeing Ferris from captivity, an electronic charge in her head soon kills her during their harrowing escape. The loss and failure strongly hits Ethan, as he and Musgrave are dressed down by IMF director Theodore Brassel. Yet a chance to avenge her death surfaces as the arms dealer Ferris was tracking, Owen Davian, is invited to a gala event at the Vatican, which requires Ethan and his team to break into the Sovereign Palace. Their clever sleight of hand allows them to capture Davian and replace him, only to fake his death in front of a slew of witnesses. While transporting Davian, Ethan and Luther recover a secret message from Ferris, who believed there was a mole in the IMF, with evidence pointing towards Brassel. They're then ambushed by a heavily armed team who break Davian free. Ethan then races to find Julia, who Davian threatened, but she's already been abducted to force Ethan to steal a biohazardous item called the Rabbit's Foot. Now forced to go on the run, he is enabled by Musgrave to head off to Shanghai to plot a way to steal the Rabbit's Foot, capture Davian, and save the woman he loves. Yet deception and betrayal still await him, as the mission becomes far more perilous than he ever imagined. So Mission Impossible 3 hit theaters around the world throughout May, June, and July of 2006, which is about 10 years after the release of the original film directed by Brian De Palma, which was very much heralded as a very taut, intelligent summer blockbuster thriller, growing over $450 million at the box office. And in 2000, we got the first sequel release directed by John Woo, which, despite earning $90 million more at the box office than the first film, is kind of looked at as the black sheep of the franchise, because people look at it as like a kind of a slow, monotonous, unengaging thriller that has a lot of wonderfully staged acting, really beautiful cinematography, but kind of stripped a whole lot of things away and did a tonal change of anything, and didn't make the character of Ethan Hunt the same kind of character he had before. It was very, very stark of a difference, and so a lot of things went on over the years, kind of like, okay, and did a lot of good business, but it really didn't get received terribly well. So going on for the next couple of years, Tom Cruise is like, what do we want to do next with the franchise? What direction do we want to take it? And he was like, I want something that has more character to it, a little bit more levity, a little bit more personality to it overall, just like something that had a little bit more energy, stuff like that. You want something that was kind of relatable in a certain way. So when he was kind of working on ideas, stuff like that, he kind of flipped on the series Alias, and this whole thing was created by J.J. Abrams, and just like he pinpointed all the things he really wanted to do with Mission Impossible 3 in this TV series. So ring up J.J. Abrams, who had done a lot of screenwriting before as he transitioned into television and being an executive producer and stuff like that. So he had a nice track record behind him, but this would be his first feature film directorial effort. And Tom Cruise, along with his producing partner Paul Wagner, were such a very good team and very experienced in doing filmmaking that they obviously could work very well with JJ to realize what he wanted to do with it and get on this whole collaborative effort to move the franchise in a different direction that felt a little more satisfying, a little bit more, again, energetic, jam-packed with action, stuff like that, really kind of get it on good momentum here. And with a budget set at $150 million, they did create a very good production. They created something that had a good vibe, good energy all the way through it, that they actually came in ahead of schedule and under budget on the whole thing, which speaks a lot of good things towards this entire production team they put together here, because they got the best people possible. And they shot, obviously, in Los Angeles for a lot of stuff, but they moved over into Italy and China, so they got a nice international mix of locations to give a big sort of feel to the entire story here. And of course, you all really know the style of films that J.J. Abrams makes. They're all very propulsive, very exciting type of films. And it's entirely here in this whole film. This first film that he directed has all that style here to get the emotion for the characters and a little bit of levity and relatability to everything, but also keep the energy moving forward in the whole film, and he creates such a magnetic, kinetic type of experience that never kind of loses its way in any type of way, but just his style into the whole film just really kind of just jacks up to such a level that just feels like you're on a crest of a wave throughout almost the entire film. I don't feel, in my opinion, doesn't feel exhaustive, but there are a few drawbacks to how it kind of moves the story completely forward and keeps going. But the style of the whole thing, the cinematography employed here from a regular cinematographer, you end up using on pretty much every film J.J. Abrams would direct from here on out, a very solid wavelength to have together here going forward, that just like, you just get everything in such a cinematic sense. I love how the camera moves in certain places. It just has a fluidity to it around these sets and the actors and different things without getting too overboard with it. Just like it moves when the story needs it to move and stuff like that. It really creates a very good sense. Him and his cinematographer really hit off something that works very well and just, again, energizes the entire film here, that gives you a good sense that feels right from the beginning of it. When you have all those colors popping out, you're not going to feel like this is a slow, dreary type of film. This is a very vibrant type of film that's going to keep going forward and stuff like that. So I think they create a visual style for the film that works for the momentum, the electricity they want to generate throughout the entire course of the narrative here. I think they did a good job to really make it look very good. And certainly someone who has an energy and just commitment that is pretty much unmatched is Tom Cruise himself, returning as Ethan Hunt here, where they evolve the character a little bit. They get him out of the entire thing in the second film, where he was a little bit more kind of isolated and a little over serious and stuff like that, and felt, from a lot of accounts, much more James Bond-like, and make him much more domesticated. He's trying to get out of the business of the Impossible Missions Force and settle down to a nice suburban life with a wonderful woman here. It immediately just makes him relatable. He gives the entire performance an emotional quality in this film that I think, right from the first goddamn scene in this film, he's worth his money. Just in that opening goddamn scene where they do this whole kind of flash forward to the entire countdown scene between him and Davian. It's an incredible scene. It just the acting powerhouse, electricity flowing through that scene is magnificent. The visceral, raw quality, what he just pours out in those moments, is an actor who can just turn on something very powerful inside himself when he wants to dig deep into the depths of the emotions of the characters. He can really dig that out when he really wants to do that. And you can see the entire dynamic range of that in the whole film. The loving quality he has with Julia. I just love the entire thing where he just is very content with her. Just like it's the life that he really, really absolutely positively wants. But then there's a whole kind of counterbalance of the whole thing that's like when you get him back into the force, get him back in the team, and he's just so much on a razor focus, like this laser shooting out to this entire mission, everything like that. This guy is on such an amazing energy level through the entire thing. Just like you can see Ethan Hunt as a character who does kind of live for a little bit of that action junkie atmosphere to everything. Once he's in the entire mission, he's just on top of it. He just shows that he is the top agent. He's the best there is. And that's how this entire story kind of starts off, in the sort of subversive type of way that you get explained later on, that this entire thing was kind of constructed, this entire conspiracy of everything to drive Ethan Hunt to this entire thing of wanting to capture Davy and all these different things, because he is the absolute best. If there's any one guy who's out there who's going to be able to get that rabbit's foot under any circumstance whatsoever, it's Ethan Hunt. And it's the entire thing that flows through the narrative, that you see that this guy is top level. He's the best there is. I just love everything that Tom Cruise does with the character here to make him, again, emotionally relatable in that type of way. You see all these wonderful scenes he has with Michelle Monaghan, who's just absolutely just wonderful in this whole film. Just like, she's got the sweetest quality of everything. She's just an idyllic woman to have in his life, and they have this wonderfully just beautiful chemistry between them. I love every little beat they work together. There's such a warmth and sweetness, so many wonderful little things they get in between the two of them. It feels so genuine, it feels so natural, it feels so welcoming and rewarding to the audience to get that type of thing for the character of Ethan here. I like so much what they do with it and how they move it through the entire storyline. And you just feel so much what Ethan Hunt will do once you get him triggered off into a desperate situation, when she's in peril. You see all that stuff launch out and this whole thing, and just love everything that just is a catalyst for the character of Ethan Hunt. is a fantastic thing to just see spark off the entire film. It's wonderful, and Tom Cruise is just, again, one of the best fucking committed actors out there. Just like physically, there's hardly anyone who can really touch what he is dedicated to producing on screen. I love what he does in this whole thing. He just grabs this entire film, charges forward, and does a fantastic job of his performance and his physical commitment to the character. And I just absolutely love Ving Rhames in his entire franchise. Him as Luther Stickle is an absolute delight. Every time he comes up and has this wonderful camaraderie with Tom Cruise, everything they're hitting back and forth off of one another is just so absolutely fantastic. They've got this sparking chemistry all over the place. I love this entire thing they keep bantering about in the whole film, this entire thing about the love life advice and everything, like Luther's trying to tell him. It's like, we're guys who lead these secretive lives, and we have to be very duplicitous about what we do and all this type of stuff, and we can't be allowing people to get kind of vulnerable in our lives and kind of bring them in close and everything. And then Ethan's just like, I got married to Julia 2 days ago, and Luther's like, oh, well, good for you, man, congratulations. So I was like, I just love that entire thing, the entire quality of the screenwriting and that whole thing, but you can't write chemistry. The chemistry is between those wonderful actors who know each other so very well. They just got this entire thing, and Ving Rhames is a phenomenal actor. The guy's wonderful in this entire role. And just getting Laurence Fishburne in this film as Brassel, the new head of the IMF, I absolutely love it. I love everything that Laurence Fishburne brings forward on screen. He's just got this whip-cracking, smart wit type of thing going on where he's kind of dressing everyone down as like, you failed on the mission and you're giving excuses and this, that, and everything. It's like, I don't want excuses. I want results. I just love the entire commanding authority that he has on screen. Just has that physical stature that just permeates out of the screen and all these different things. I love all this great dialogue they give him. Just like he's so absolutely brilliant in what he does on screen. Just leaning into the characters, becoming such a major cog in the overall plot of the film. I like that even though he hasn't have a ton of scenes in the film, he still has a kind of a presence overall in the whole thing. Just love Fishburne. He's a phenomenal, brilliant actor and just does so many great things with everything they give him in this film. Absolutely fucking love it. And then you got Billy Crudup here as Musgrave, who just like, I love, again, what they do with this character, that they set him up very much as a good friend of Ethan's. He's looking out for him. He's doing stuff to keep Brass off his back when he's out doing missions and stuff like that. He's willing to cover for him in certain situations and doing all the little things to make it seem like he's the best resource he possibly has, up until the point where you get all this little stuff building. I was like, is there a leak in the IMF? There's someone betraying them. There's a mole or whatnot. And you start thinking it's Brassel here and there. They're kind of laying things out. And then the freaking turn the thing takes when you see that Musgrave is a slimy ass weasel that kind of turned on everyone and put everyone in jeopardy. And just like, I love the subtlety of the performance Billy Crudup puts in. It's like there's little things. He never plays anything up too much. He's like, you just see how it kind of creeps into him when he kind of just revealing things out to Ethan there or whatnot. It's like, just, man, this guy's a slimy piece of crap. You really want to see him get it. All these different things. Like, it really builds up so well. I like how they don't lean into it early in the film. They don't do any kind of weird kind of lingering shots, or he has any kind of like duplicitous sort of expressions on his face. It's like, play it very, very straight and build it up and do such a wonderful turn there. It's like, it's really well handled, acting wise, directing wise, and writing as well. So Billy Crudup did a really wonderful job here, and just like the entire team they assembled for Ethan's team in this whole thing, I really just like it so much. Again, got someone like Simon Pegg, who's just a phenomenally talented comedic actor and does so many wonderful little things with just a few scenes here. They kind of just had him dip his toes into the entire franchise here, and obviously made sure that he was a major part of it moving forward, which was one of the best choices they ever made for the franchise. And he's just great. He's perfect. He's just sharp. He's on the money. Everything like that. Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, I like a lot in this whole thing. I like him as Declan. He's just got this, he's got charisma, he's kind of likable, he's got this kind of moving type of feel to him, just like he has this sort of way of handling himself on screen that's just has a lot of swagger in a certain way, just like you feel a lot of things from the character that has a little bit more drama to it in different places, but he feels like a solid addition to the team here. And Maggie Q is wonderful as well, just like this confidence that she has, sophistication as well. She just brings a certain things that feels very level-headed and very experienced to the character of Zen here, just like
wonderful stuff all over the place. Just like they put together a really solid set of characters and cast them extremely well in this whole thing. But just getting up on this villain of the film here with Owen Davian, portrayed by the now late Philip Seymour Hoffman, it's just incredible type of stuff. The guy was an amazing actor, and he absolutely shows that in this role, just like he's so powerhouse in what he does here. Again, that opening scene, which gets kind of reflected later on in the film, just intense type of stuff. Just I love the power going between the two actors. Just like everything is just so raw and intense, and just, oh, I just love it. Just like the entire character so much has this sort of grim, dry, sort of sociopathic demeanor about himself, that he has such a dispassionate way of talking about things and kind of threatening people, stuff like that. It's like he doesn't get too riled until he's up in that one moment where he has to know for absolute certain that this was the actual rabbit's foot that Ethan got for him. Everything else is handled in such a almost passive type of way. It's like your life doesn't mean anything to him, all these different things. Just like, I love Hoffman. He's a magnificent actor in this whole film and so many other roles he's done. Just, I love the character, I love what he does with it. He just brings so much explosive quality to what you're doing with the threat of the film here, that everything is so revolved around what Davian is going to do to Ethan Hunt's life here, and how he's going to completely ruin it by capturing the woman he loves. You know, like, I just like the entire nucleus of the film, this entire revolving energy between the two actors that explodes in that one moment there. The whole cast is just absolutely perfect. I wouldn't change a goddamn thing with anyone. And picking up the musical range for the franchise here from Danny Elfman and then Hans Zimmer is Michael Giacchino, who had done a lot of scoring for video games before this, but also provided all the music on Alias. So J.J. Abrams brought it over into this film, also did Ghost Protocol, and then did marvelous scores for the Star Trek films, also did scores for Doctor Strange, Rogue One, Star Wars Story, and a lot of other really good stuff. And I think he does a really solid job of this whole thing, bringing all the themes in, creating a very solid action score to this whole thing that I think just works out very, very well. It just melds so well with what JJ wants to do with it. So the energy and all these different vibes that he wants to go off in this film come through so very beautifully on this type of stuff. It's really, really solid piece of work for him. And getting in on all the effects work on this team was Industrial Light and Magic, doing some excellent type of stuff where it was a lot of just augmenting the practical stuff in the film, because that's what Tom Cruise really likes. He likes to have the practicality. He wants the physical stuff going on the screen. He wants to be able to do the stunts himself and do all the stuff as much in camera as possible. And JJ was very much on that same wavelength. So ILM did a fantastic job to augment what they were doing on screen so much, to make things just amplify them so much, to get them on such a magnificent, solid type of level here. Shows such great work to just meld everything so beautifully and seamlessly with the live action stunt work done in this film by a legend in the field here with Vic Armstrong. He has been doing stunt work since the 1960s and has worked with almost every major action movie star for the last 40 years. He actually directed a film starring Dolph Lundgren called Army of One, aka Joshua Tree. It was actually the second unit director, action unit director, and stunt coordinator on Mission Impossible 3. Tom Cruise had worked with him since Legend and had the utmost confidence in him, and just had a fantastic, grade A, top-notch team working on all the stunt work on this thing. They just injected everyone with the utmost confidence and everything. Just did just an amazing work with the intelligence of how they put everything together and use all this technology to make sure everything maintains safe, and they could do these amazing type of things on screen. Did so many different things that just like, it just pushes the envelope for Mission Impossible to up the ante, because you're going to do Mission Impossible. You can't just do the average everyday stunts. You got to do something a little bit more crazy. You got to get a little bit higher up on the whole thing. So they absolutely deliver. The stunt team is magnificent. They do fantastic work. And the action in this film is exactly what they want to go for from the outset. Getting that fresh energy injected to the whole thing, and keep a versatility with all the action sequences where not one is like the other. Each one has a different, distinct type of way of doing action and having a different dynamic of what's going on. I love when they're going in to rescue Agent Ferris and they have the entire gunfight with the camera moving in all these wonderful type of ways, and then you have it going into the helicopter change, which actually looks phenomenal. And you got all the stuff in Rome where they're kind of going off the speedboat later on, and all these other things, the assault on the bridge and all these other big bombastic type of things where they got that wonderful stunt where Tom Cruise is just running away from the car that's going to get hit by the missile and everything, and he just slams into the car, just like, it's just amazing type of stuff. It was all choreographed and put together. It has this great sense of geography. I love so much that they intently put forth the effort to have the camera show the relation of one thing towards another, where things are in the scene, to understand what the danger is, where it's happening, what's going on, how things are progressing, how it all kind of links together and everything like that. They did a wonderful job with it, with only a few minor pieces that are a little bit kind of tightly shot and a little bit quick edited here and there, and kind of the weird kind of shutter speed type of stuff that kind of make it a little bit more jerky here and there. But on the whole, it's a very good type of piece of action they put together across the board in the whole film. Everything to do with the goddamn Shanghai stuff where they kind of do the thing from the roof with all the kind of different things they did between stunt work and CGI and stuff like that to blend the different sceneries together and have the whole thing fly off, and all these things with the parachute down in the street, which was actually Los Angeles doubling for Shanghai, where they did this amazing art direction to change a Los Angeles street into one from China. Amazing type of stuff all over the place, how they did all this stuff to meld it together and have it be part of the plot organically. And you just kind of come down to the entire film where just a physical confrontation, it's just a fight or whatnot between Ethan and Owen Davian. Just like wonderful, it kind of builds up the big action stuff, but then you get the personal stuff towards the climax. So it's like they had all the great stuff all over the place. They were very inventive and very imaginative about what they wanted to do here, and had all the best resources available to them between the stunt team and the action choreography and these visual effects, all these wonderful things. It all just heads off on such an amazing momentum that does kind of have a little bit of a thing that I want to kind of get into here, because I think the story is really good. I like basically what they do here with the whole thing with the rabbit's foot, where they kind of set this whole thing up as a speculation what it might be through the Benjamin Dunn character portrayed by Simon Pegg. There's sort of speculation that it might be this sort of world-ending anti-god type of meltdown type of weapon or whatnot, but they kind of diffuse it. It's like, oh, that's just a speculation. I don't know what it really is, stuff like that. So I like that they kind of play it knowingly as a MacGuffin, that it really isn't about the rabbit's foot, what it can do to the world. Again, it's about the entire conflict between Hunt and Davian, that Davian is going to do all these things to destroy his life and all this type of stuff. He's going to take his wife or whatnot and use her as a pawn and use her as a hostage, stuff like that, for him to get this stuff. And it's just this conflict between the two characters. What the rabbit's foot really is doesn't really matter to the story here, but it is also kind of stems out to the whole thing where the film is very fast-paced and very lean and very much going forward and focusing on the action, a little bit of levity, a little bit of character, but it does feel a little light by the time you get to the end of the film. It feels like there's not quite as much depth as you really could get into a lot of different things. That I think they set up very good characters, didn't progress them as much as they possibly could to get a really kind of like dig really good into them, whatnot, but it's just a thing where it's like, okay, it could be really fucking great. It's only kind of good. It's a good film. I really like the film. Just very entertaining and satisfying on a lot of levels. But it's a little light in some places. The story's a little thin here and there. That does thread together. It does kind of go off in the right way. Kind of has a strength of things, why things happen, where things are going. One thing leads to another. Nothing's contrived or whatnot. And they kind of avoid going too over the top with the action like John Woo kind of did with the second film. They maintain a certain sense of consequence to everything. Everything can be very dangerous in these situations. So I like that they maintained that. They kind of got into that zone or whatnot. I just feel like the script just has a little bit of stuff that could have been a little bit stronger, a little bit more substance to it in some places. But on the whole, it's a very satisfying action film. I think it does a wonderful piece of work to just satisfy audiences, but it's actually the lowest grossing one in the franchise, grossing only about $398 million off that $150 million budget. So I'd say it probably did get into a profit, but it didn't perform as well as the first two films. So it's like, it was kind of an interesting type of thing where, like, I think maybe there's a little bit of better reaction to this film, but it didn't get as much money. And there's a little of this weird kind of controversy you can kind of look into here and there that's not really substantiated. It was a lot of speculation about Tom Cruise trying to get something taken off air on Comedy Central, which was owned by Viacom at the time, and which owns Paramount. This weird type of thing that kind of sprung up here and there that people think should contribute to a boycott of the film. It's a weird type of stuff. But regardless of that, I don't care. It's a good film. It's a very entertaining film. I just like it so much. JJ hit a very solid step forward, I think, in his career here. I got him major projects later on. So guys, your thoughts about Mission Impossible 3 in the comments below, please. I really like to hear you guys talk about this franchise, guys. It's got on such an amazing track. And this will not be the last one I do of the franchise. And I'll keep going because I really want to talk about the progression of this franchise as it gets better and fucking better as you go along. So guys, thank you so much. There's always the Patreon if you're able to contribute a little something every month to keep this channel a little bit more up in the levels of doing some good stuff around here. Really, you're much appreciated. But whatever you guys do, keep watching, keep liking, commenting, and sharing links around is the best thing you could possibly do. So thanks so much, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.